is raining
Legs
in.
are gone.
He's all over the place. Referee having a close look. And it's right now. The clock is ticking. Almost inside 2 minutes. White tries to scramble to his feet.
Wow.
He does it. Inside a round.
I mean, unbelievable. And listen, we got to win the rematch.
Do you think you'll do it again? Is there a clause?
Rematch, I can't imagine him not triggering it. And he needs to be better. He will be better.
Dillian wanted to continue. The referee, of course, called it off. Do you feel that was the right call for that to happen?
Oh, I think, yes, without a doubt. Definitely. He made the right call. I think that Dill should have stayed down and taken the 8 count, then got up. But he bounced right back up. And his equilibrium was still off. And I told him, I said, you couldn't stand up straight. The referee could not let you go out.
Dillian Whyte has finally broken his silence, blasting the referee and claiming he stood right back up after the knockdown. He ranted that it was a robbery. But the truth? Everyone saw what really happened. Moses Itauma floored him clean. The referee's stoppage didn't rob Whyte. It saved him. Because if that fight had continued, the punishment would have only been worse.
Man, it's like, it's something emotional. When I talk about it, I feel like crying that.
Dean Whyte was quick to point the finger at injuries, insisting Dillian wasn't himself on the night. But excuses don't erase reality. Moses Itauma tore through him with ease. If injuries truly played that big a role, Dillian had no business stepping into the ring. Using them after the fact only makes a defeat look even worse.
I think everyone's talking about, Dillian having an injury, and I think they've probably got wind of that and thought that we're just going to press it early and see what we're given. And, he was caught quite early on the back of the head and on the side.
And then came Buddy McGirt's blunt response, perfectly capturing what most people think of these so-called robbery excuses. McGirt didn't even bother entertaining Dillian's claims. He laughed them off as pure nonsense. He knows what everyone saw. Whyte was flawed fair and square. Now, with Dillian backtracking and offering apologies, it's clear even he realizes the truth.
Hearing it, I didn't hear anything like that, so I really couldn't elaborate on that, to be honest with you.
And Duke McKenzie piled on with another brutal truth about Whyte's motives. He cut straight through the noise. Dillian Whyte didn't come for glory. He came for a payday. His performance was pathetic, a shadow of what he once was. To cry robbery after such a dreadful showing is laughable. Moses Itauma dominated him with ease, exposing Whyte's washed-up state for the whole world to see.
Your career, at the end of your career, you'll look at your bank balance and say to yourself, you know what, it was worth it. Dillian Whyte can look at his bank balance and say, last night's fight was worth it. Did he do it for the money? He probably did. Moses Itauma is a huge name, and it would have been a massive scalp to have had, but it was never going to be the case.
Mark Tibbs tried to throw Dillian a bone by praising his conditioning, but the truth couldn't be hidden. The moment the bell rang, he looked dreadful. Age, weight, injuries, all just excuses. To cry robbery after being schooled by a 20-year-old is pure embarrassment. Moses Itauma didn't just beat him, he made him look finished.
Good. I thought Dillian shaped up well. I thought he was in fantastic nick. But when you're at your twilight years and you're working on your weight, etc., it's taxing. It's taxing on yourself. And I'm pretty.
And then Eddie Hearn dropped the harshest truth about Dillian's future. He should retire. No sugarcoating, no promoter spin. At 38, after years out of the ring, he walked straight into the fire against a hungry young killer like Moses Itauma. Hearn warned it would be a disaster if Dillian didn't settle quickly, and disaster struck in seconds. Instead of owning it, Dillian cried robbery and blamed the referee. But the truth was obvious. His body was slow, his timing gone, and his chin exposed. Hearn's words echoed what fans already knew. Whyte isn't world level anymore. Retirement isn't just an option, it's mercy. Because if he keeps fighting lions like Itauma, the next one won't just stop him, it could finish him for good.
Mojo from Dillian, but listen, it's very difficult when you're 38 years old. You've been out in the ring for a couple of years and you've just had that Tete fight, and you fight a brilliant young sharp fighter. We said that, unless he gets into the fight, it's going to be a disastrous start for him. And it was more than a disastrous start.
Would you want to see Dillian retire?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What next for Moses? Because everyone's talking about Usyk.
Yeah, I want him to see him in with a live, active heavyweight, you know, because he's definitely good enough.
Duke McKenzie summed it up perfectly. Moses Itauma didn't just beat Dillian Whyte, he embarrassed him. From the dressing room to the ring walk, Moses looked calm, composed, and completely unfazed by the pressure of facing a so-called veteran. Dillian, meanwhile, carried excuses on his shoulders before the first bell even rang. McKenzie admits he expected Moses to win, but not with such brutal ease, and that's a telling part. Whyte looked broken before a punch had even landed. And then, after being dismantled without Moses breaking a sweat, he had the audacity to scream robbery. Nonsense. At 20 years old, Moses carried himself like the future of heavyweight boxing, while Whyte shuffled around like a man who no longer belonged under the lights. McKenzie's words cut the deepest. This wasn't controversy, it wasn't robbery, it was dominance. Pure and simple.
I thought we would beat Dillian Whyte, but not with that ease. He looked so comfortable, like saying the build-up, in the changing room, his ring walk, his whole sort of demeanour once he actually got into the ring. You know, for a young guy of only 20 years of age, to hold down all that pressure and not show it, it's quite impressive.
And Derek Chisora, who actually knows Dillian better than most, added his own brutal truth. Chisora, one of the few men who genuinely respects Whyte, couldn't hide his disappointment. He admitted the temple shot changed everything. But let's be real, the long night he spoke about was over in minutes, because Moses Itauma wasted no time. Chisora tried pointing out that Dillian had never fought a southpaw before, as if that explains it. But excuses aside, the facts are clear. Dillian was unprepared, outclassed, and humiliated. To then scream robbery afterwards only made him look weaker. If the very first southpaw of your career flattens you, that's not bad luck. That's decline. That's poor preparation. Chisora's sadness sounded more like pity, because deep down he didn't want to see Dillian go out like that. But the truth is, there was no other ending. Itauma made him look old, slow, and irrelevant. No robbery, no excuses, just a beating.
Hey, listen, he got caught the head on the temple. Yeah. And then after that, it was a long night for him. I'm a bit sad, because I didn't want him to go out like that.
Dave Coldwell didn't sugarcoat it. For him, this was the ugly ending of Dillian Whyte's career. He called it what it was, a brutal, nasty conclusion for a once-respected heavyweight. Coldwell admitted he feared this outcome, and Moses Itauma proved him right. The dismantling was so convincing there's nothing left to debate. For Dillian to scream robbery after that beating isn't just illusional, it's insulting to the fans' intelligence. He was dropped, outpaced, outgunned, and everyone watching saw it. Coldwell's words cut through every excuse. This wasn't just another defeat. This was a full stop on Whyte's story. There's no comeback after being exposed so badly by a 20-year-old. The fans didn't just see a loss. They saw a fading fighter clinging to relevance, humiliated on the biggest stage. Robbery? No chance. This was Moses delivering the knockout blow not just to Whyte in the ring, but to his career and whatever legacy he had left.
It's way too much for him, and it's going to be, quite a nasty ending for him, a nasty ending to a career. I was worried for Dillian going into that this would be that fight, and it was. I mean, that you don't get as it can't be any worse than that to punctuate a career, to end a career.
Before we talk about what's potentially next for Dillian, let's talk about Moses.
Amir Khan summed it up in 3 words: speed kills. And Moses Itauma proved it by humiliating Dillian Whyte in record time. Some thought the veteran might test the youngster early, but instead it was Dillian who got exposed. Moses' accuracy, timing, and razor-sharp speed left Whyte swinging at shadows, looking like he didn't belong in there. Even Khan admits he didn't expect it to end so fast. But that's what happens when a faded fighter meets a fresh, powerful prodigy. Robbery? Please. How can you call it robbery when you're smashed to pieces inside a round? That wasn't injustice. That was a beating. Moses didn't just show speed. He showed destructive power that makes him a threat to every heavyweight alive. Meanwhile, Dillian's excuses only bury his legacy further. Khan's respect goes to Moses. while Whyte's name sinks deeper into embarrassment every time he opens his mouth.
I think no one expected it to finish that quick. Speed kills, as you know. Speed kills, and he had but not only the speed, he had the power with that, and the accuracy was on point. I mean, I didn't think it was gonna. I thought it'd be the opposite, where Dillian might win the first couple of rounds with his power, but I think it just shows how strong Itauma is and how powerful he is. He's a big threat in heavy.
Antonio Tava doesn't sugarcoat it. He calls Dillian Whyte exactly what he is: washed up. To Tava, Whyte was nothing but target practice for Moses Itauma. He came in with a history of knockouts, hoping for one desperate shot, but he never got close. Instead, Tava says he was mauled, destroyed, and exposed as a fading fighter he has become. The painful truth? Moses doesn't earn much credit beating an old, declining heavyweight, but the way he did it made a statement. Tava even warns that Itauma now needs live, young opponents because flattening faded names like Dillian is far too easy. Meanwhile, Whyte refuses to accept reality. He screams robbery, blames referees, and pretends he was still in the fight. But everyone saw the truth. He had nothing left. Moses walked through him like it was sparring. Tava's honesty cuts deep. Dillian Whyte isn't world level anymore. He's a stepping stone. And crying robbery after being exposed like that only makes his downfall look even more pathetic.
Whyte came in here being knocked out a couple times, wanted to see could he land a punch on this young kid, but he didn't have a chance tonight. He got molded over, and this is a big win for a young guy. But he got to continue to fight credible opponents, and he got to get tested. He got to fight a young fighter like himself and beat a credible opponent like that. Not these old, washed-up fighters that he can only just look good.
At the end of the day, Dillian Whyte can shout robbery, blame referees, or cry injuries, but the truth is undeniable. Moses Itauma battered him and buried the idea of a fairy tale comeback. This wasn't just another defeat. It was a brutal passing of the torch. The old guard humiliated by the new lion. Every major voice in boxing has said the same thing. Whyte looked slow, clueless, and finished, while Moses, at just 20 years old, looked sharp, powerful, and fearless. Whyte's excuses only add comedy to his downfall, and the fans aren't buying it. Now, the question isn't whether Dillian can bounce back, but whether he should ever step into a ring again. Meanwhile, Moses looks destined to rise fast, with a whole division on notice. So what do you think? Is the young monster Moses Itauma the next man to take over heavyweight boxing? Or do you believe Dillian Whyte still has one last upset left in him? Drop your thought below.